Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, I'm also known as JMonster, and I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. Again, we're going to delve into 0.97 and what you can expect in the upcoming patch. And today we are going to be taking a very close look at Rohan. It's been a while since I've seen any Rohirrim armies, at least that I've put up on my channel. I know that other people have. UMAD Commander certainly has, and other people have, especially during the tournament, etc., etc. But there's a lot to say about them, so let's begin. So naturally, the first army we're going to look at today is the forces of Rohan, being commanded by Angstfetz, who sent in the replay. Big thank you to him for supporting the channel. And he has brought a very infantry-heavy force, but it is tempered with a lot of cavalry, so at least 5 or 6 units of cavalry. So this is, I'm sure, for many people, going to be the Rohirrim army that many of you have wanted to see. At least in Reforged. You get to see lots of them in the movies. In any case, I'm getting off on a tangent that's completely irrelevant. So he has brought some Riddermark Axemen here. I believe at least 2 to 3 units of them. Also a couple companies of the Shield Maidens of Rohan, or of Eowyn now. Got a couple companies here of the Helmingas. And one thing to note about these skirmishing units, such as the Shield Maidens and the Helmingas, is that Rohirrim units generally are a lot better as infantry. Now, this was a fairly hard balance to strike, and based on this battle, I think that we get it right. At least it certainly seems that way. But for a long time, Rohan had these massive numbers that you'd never expect from a faction that, 1, fights predominantly mounted, and 2, does not have the population of the large eastern factions, yet still shared very similar unit sizes. So that was kind of odd. So the thing I wanted to set out to do was to obviously rectify those oddities and those strange imbalances. So the primary objective of Rohan infantry in 0.97 is to be a little bit better in close quarters, but they're also going to rely very heavily on missile units like the 2 that I'm showing you right now. Shield Maidens of Eowyn for 1, Helmingas for another. Rohirrim infantry is a good deal smaller in 9.7.1 than it is in 9.6 or 9.7 than it is in 9.6.1. But they are consequently, as I mentioned several times, far better in melee. So it's an interesting balance to strike. You can't win your games with infantry alone as Rohan. You don't have things like halberds, you don't have things like pikes, and your infantry is simply okay and generally quite low in number, so they need some supporting units. So Rohan still has to use their cavalry and their skirmishers very effectively if they want to try and play with a build like what Angstfetz has brought here. So for that reason, I really want to show this game off today, and also because it's an iconic matchup with them and Isengard. But you know, that's beside the point. We'll get to that later. But yeah, it is a really nice litmus test for the Rohirrim infantry. So it'll be interesting to see how this build plays out for him. But in any case, 2 units of the Shield Maidens, 2 units of Helmingas. Another company over here of the Riddermark Axemen. I've also got some Riddermark Spearmen here, forming a second line, several companies of them. Got some Westmark Spearmen as well. I think there's 2 units of the Westmark Spearmen hanging around here somewhere. Got some more Helmingas, the second company up here. The second one? Pretty sure it is. Yeah, that would be number 2. Also got some Riddermark Archers on the field today, and some Eastmark Spearmen, who have undergone some changes in this latest build. So they're a little bit smaller. But again, they've got a little bit more survivability in melee, and a lot of Rohirrim infantry units got 1 extra morale. So a lot of them are sitting at 12 right now, whereas previously they were 11. And certain units like the Riddermark Spears that we saw earlier, I think got a little bit of extra melee defense. 1 melee defense to be specific, and so did the Eastmark Spearmen. So they're a little bit smaller, but a little bit more morale and a little bit more melee defense. So altogether, they're not a killing machine, even if they do have some low-tier javelins. But they will at least help hold the line, which is what the Rohirrim units were struggling to do in previous patches. So now we've got some decent infantry units in the form of their cheaper spearmen, and some better holding units in the form of the Riddermark Spearmen and the Westmark Spearmen. So altogether, it's an interesting army, but let's really look at the cool stuff. The killing power of the Rohirrim army is going to be, of course, their cavalry. So Sons of Eorl here, the knight unit for Rohan, very strong. Got some Riddermark cavalry here as well, one of the Lancer units. 2 companies, in fact, of the Riddermark... actually, no, 1 company of the Riddermark cavalry. The other one is the Arid of Aldburg, who are a higher tier Lancer unit, a lot more survivable, better morale, and things like that. Out in front here, got the Red Shield of Erkenbrands, who are a hybrid bow and melee cavalry unit. And we got some Rittermark skirmishers, who are, again, another hybrid unit. And that's one of the things I like about the Rohirrim cavalry, and I think is what makes the Rohirrim army in 9.7 so good, significantly better than they were before, is that they've got okay infantry, but they've also got these versatile cavalry units that can fulfill a few different roles. Not quite to the same extent of hybridization as, say, Lindon, for example, who, like, every second unit is a hybrid that can fulfill different roles. And some of the more Rohirrim units are more specialized, like the 2 units of Lancers that we saw a little bit earlier. But then they have some supporting units like this that can be used in tandem with the rest of their army, and it just makes the Rohirrim so satisfying to play. I've really been enjoying them. I don't usually play a lot of Rohan, but I have been wanting to play Rohan, and have in fact played as Rohan, because they just feel a lot better. I just like them. So that's going to be all there is to say about the Rohirrim army. I've gone on long enough about that. Let's take a look at the other horse-based faction. And this army being commanded by Crimson Behelit, it is, of course, the Khandish Hordes. He has brought some Brotherhood of the Lance here, some Nurad Windblades, and one thing to note is that I think Crimson Behelit hasn't played in a while. So this is a fairly interesting army for Khans. I do have some other cool replays that I'll show you, which is a 1v1 between Rohan and Khan. You can see Khan played a little bit differently. This is a neat army. He's got some Variag Horde here as well, 2 units of them in order to support. Some Stormguard of Khand, who are kind of a hybrid unit. They combine the strengths of many of the different clans that make up Khan. So they're going to get a lot of morale, a lot of anti-cavalry bonuses. They're going to just all together be a very strong unit. And of course they're a horse archer, which is very fitting for these nomadic peoples. More Variag Horde and some nomadic scouts as well. I think I mentioned the Windblades over here. Yeah, the Windblades and the Brotherhood of the Lance. One of Khan's Khan's only Lancer unit. Lots of nomadic axemen. I'm looking at maybe about 4 units, maybe even 5 of the nomadic axemen. We got some Nurad footmen here, and they're going to be backed up by a unit of... Where are they? Oh yes, the Stormguard of Nurad. Very strong, very tanky, give a lot of morale to nearby units. So with the higher morale Nurad units, they form an excellent anchor. What do we got over here? 2 units, I believe, maybe just 1 unit of the Variag Bowmen, and then 2 units of the nomadic raiders. So a lot of missiles here, which is going to be tough for their matchup. I might have gone a different way with my Khandish army. I might have gone with a little bit more halberds. Just because they're going to be fighting against Imladris and a lot of these lower tier bow units, or even the mid-tier bow units are going to struggle to penetrate that thick Imladris plate. And yeah, it'll be an interesting fight nonetheless, I'm sure. So let's go ahead and see what Team Red is bringing to the battle today. Across the field from Mr. Behelit, we have the forces of Imladris, again, being played by King of Sparta. You saw him in the last replay as well. And it's almost an identical build. I think he's been trying out this build pretty extensively, so it's good to see something that isn't just a heavy infantry rush build. So, yeah. Let's take a look here. Roaming Lords of Rivendell, 1 unit of them. Of course, we got the Eldarinwi Standard Bearers, and then some Doomsmen of Arda. Eldarinwi Harumakil, Eldarinwi Archers, 2 companies of Imladris Guardians, Imladris Sentries, a lot of Swords of Rivendell here to the tune of 4 of them, 2 units of Noratirno, and 1 unit of the Archers of Rivendell. Still a lot of heavily armored units at the core of this Imladris army. And like I said, the Khandish missile-heavy force is going to struggle to penetrate that thick elven booty. But we'll see what they can do. Let's move on now to Imladris' ally. We're going to have, as I said, an iconic matchup here between Rohan and Isengard. This Isengard army played by DF Vision, one of our testers, and just generally one of our very helpful people in the Discord. If you guys are going to be joining us on the Reforged Discord, I'd recommend that you seek him out if you need help with your technical issues. But in any case, I digress. He's brought some Dunlending clansmen, a couple companies here of the Uruk-hai Archers, a bunch of interestingly placed Uruk-hai units that, oh, I see what's going on here. They've been moved to make room for the Isengard Ballista to do its work. But I believe he's got 3 units of Uruk-hai pikemen, 3 units of infantry to form the core of his army. He's also got at least 2 units, I think, of the crossbows. Yeah, 2 units of Imladris crossbows, 1 unit of the Isengard Ballista. And he's also got some fearsome wargs here. Isengard can do a lot of things, which is a bit different from a lot of the other Orcish factions. Mordor relies on their elites, whereas Isengard can fall back on their powerful Uruk-hai units. Good and bad is very much a rush army, but Isengard doesn't really need to rush. In fact, I don't see very many Isengard rush armies. Not necessarily because Isengard can't do it, but there are some, I feel, more interesting and satisfying ways to play Isengard. So like I said, very versatile. They can do a fair amount of stuff and be successful at it. And this is looking like a little bit more of a defensive Isengard army, something designed to bring their opponent to them, which is going to allow them to leverage their strengths on a battlefield of their choosing, which is a smart thing to do. So that just about wraps it up for our army comps. Let's go ahead and jump into the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. And again, much like we saw in our last video, these lower tier skirmishers are going to struggle in the early game against the Nori Tyrrell lineup, and of course the swords and the archers rather of Rivendell. And a lot of these nomadic raiders are getting cut down very, very quickly. We're even on half speed, and they've already been cut down by 25 men in this unit. So this is going to be an interesting fight for Khand. Now, Crimson Bahelite, as I mentioned, hasn't played in a while, but he is nonetheless one of our developers and a veteran player. So there are some things that he can do to try and win this fight. One of the big ones is spreading out. He's got the resources to envelop the Elven line and to drown them in a sea of arrows and win this skirmish fight fairly quickly, depending on how he plays it. Across the field, however, looks like Engsfitz is going to be forced to make his way towards the Isengard lines. Looks like the ballista already maneuvering itself into a position where it can begin to fire on the Rohirrim, and I think I know exactly what they want to go for. They want to go for that cavalry, don't they? Red Shield of Erkenbrand over here, along with some pretty powerful units. I think the Knights are present over here. No, the First Marshal's Bodyguard. I don't know if we mentioned them, but they're on the other side. I thought maybe the ballista would be going after them, but in any case, there is a big old juicy blobbo cav that Isengard Ballista could be used to great effect against, especially if they get some enfilading fire. Oh, that would be devastating for the Rohirrim skirmishers. Well, let's see. Let's see how Engsfitz decides to approach this. Let's pop across the field real fast. Looks like Crimson Bahelite is going to try and spread out his army. He's got a bit of a checkerboard thing going on here, which is interesting. I probably would have gone for a more contiguous line with my Nurad Footman and then move my a little bit of lag there, and then move my Nomadic Axemen onto my wings for sort of a simultaneous oblique maneuver to try and overwhelm the wings, or even come in from behind against the heavier Elven infantry who will be vulnerable to the AP. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out. First wave of the Rohirrim has begun to move forward. We have Riddermark archers here, defended by Eastmark spearmen, looking very similar to the way that Rudauer was played in the last game, except that the Rohirrim cannot play the same way as Rudauer. They do have some mid-range skirmishers that are going to be well defended behind this layered defense that Engsfitz tends to favor when he's playing with this kind of playstyle. But a lot of these units are an AP. That's a big thing to note. And there's no pikes, and there's a lot less numbers here for the Rohirrim than there would be with a Rudauer army, so this will be interesting. What do we have over here? Ooh, an engagement between the Warwick skirmishers and the Red Shield of Erkenbrand, and these Warwick skirmishers are in so much trouble. Riddermark skirmishers chasing them down. Meanwhile, ooh, the Red Shield of Erkenbrand are just showering them with arrows as they try to retreat. More and more javelins pouring in here against the Warwick skirmishers. They're going to take a lot of damage. Quite a lot of them fell there, and I'm sure much more HP was shaved off. Engsfitz is not going to follow too closely, however. He is getting very close to a lot of pike units and some supporting Uruk archers who are already lining up to begin to pressure the Rohirrim and drive them back out of position. Meanwhile, the rest of the Rohirrim so far standing their ground, slowly moving forward as Engsfitz continues to harass the Isengard wing with his cavalry. Popping on over to the other side, it seems like all is quiet on the eastern front, as the nomads of Khand are just kind of in a bit of a staring contest right now with the elves of Rivendell. So let's pop back over to the main event, kick things up to full speed. Riddermark archers and the skirmishers moving forward to begin to skirmish with the Isengard lineup. What do we have over here? Some Warg riders who are menacing the Rohirrim right wing, which has been completely stripped of its cavalry. But it seems like Vision, instead of splitting his forces, is going to come back here and try and deal with the very aggressive attacks here from the Rohirrim. Champions of the White Hand. Don't know if I mentioned the Champions of the White Hand or not, but they're definitely present on the battlefield today. Riddermark skirmishers want to get as close as they dare to these guys so they can toss some javelins in them. Oh, but they're going to suffer a counter charge from those Champions of the White Hands. Ooh, that was a really nice sudden change in momentum from Vision there. Caught out the Riddermark skirmishers, almost routed them. And these Work skirmishers here are going to suffer a fairly similar fate. They're going to come into close contact with a lot of Rohirrim cavalry, but they are going to escape being routed as well. When we have here the Isengard Ballista beginning to open up on the Rohirrim, get a nice piece of some of the Riddermark Spearmen there. There's a lot of targets here that could be potentially deadly, so there's nothing that the Ballista can really focus down that's like a super high priority target. Most of the cavalry is well out of reach of that Ballista, and there's no 2 HP units on the Rohirrim infantry lineup, so they're just going to try to have to peck away at a whole bunch of different units, which they don't necessarily have the ammunition to do to any significant effect if Engsvets begins to put himself into loose formation and widen his lines, which he has already done. Still, it's claiming a few, but really there's maybe a dozen men there, and that's a pretty good volley. So that's like best case scenario. Let's see. It seems like the Imladr themselves have been forced onto the defensive by the very aggressive posturing here from the Nomads of Khand. Solid. Ooh. Oh, that lag. Solid center here being presented by the Nurad Footmen. They're going to struggle against a lot of the higher melee defense Elven units, however, which is why, as I mentioned earlier, I probably would have brought some halberds, because at least they have the range advantage. And then that solid center is going to be supported by some enveloping attacks by the nomadic units on either wing. But for the time being, it seems like they're content to try and whittle down their opponents from afar. Roaming Lords of Rivendell getting a nice charge into the front of the Variag Bowmen here. Stormguard of Khand helping to rebuff this attack and drive the Elves of Imladr's back. Elves of Imladr's going to respond with a volley or two from the Noritino Warriors and the supporting Archers of Rivendell. And the Stormguard of Khand are going to struggle here. There's definitely a lot of HP that could potentially be shaved off. But the roaming Lords of Rivendell are getting the worst of this, and King of Sparta is going to pull them back and try and preserve what remains of their numbers. A very bold move here from some Imladr's units. It would be very simple for 2 units of Imladr's cavalry to quickly run them over. Bahlate definitely taking a bit of a risk here, and especially when a lot of his supporting units are not exactly in close attendance to this constantly advancing front line of nomadic raiders. He's going to need to be careful, or he could lose a lot here for really very little gain. What do we got over here? It seems like some of the cavalry from the Rohirrim has sussed out some hidden units of Snaga skirmishers, which I didn't even know were there. Red Shield of Verkenbrand and the Riddermark cavalry being used to charge these units down while they cycle in and out and just kind of take turns charging into the Snaga skirmishers, trying to keep them pinned as best as they can, while the Isengard cavalry rather spends a lot of time chasing down the Rohirrim. Red Shield of Verkenbrand going to get caught in the rear. Oh no, by the Champions of the White Hands. And the Red Shield are good melee cavalry, but they are not knights. They are not up to the task of fighting the Champions of the White Hands. Seems like some of the Riddermark Spearmen here being used to zone out the Warg Riders. Oh, that lag is irritating. But yeah, so this is the way that you're going to want to attack a phalanx. I say this in videos all the time, and I don't get too many examples of it in practice. But the way that Engsvets is going about this, you can see he's not looking to engage the whole front line in just a one-to-one kind of slugfest. He is going to focus on this one wing here. He's using his mid-range skirmishers to try and weaken this wing so that his Rohirrim infantry are going to be able to cut them down. And so not only is this unit being pinned in the front, which is something you're just regrettably going to have to bite the bullet and do when you're assaulting a phalanx without pikes, but they're also being attacked from the flank and rear by some nasty armor-piercing shock troops. Over here, Snaga skirmishers have been caught out definitively by a combination of the Rohirrim cavalry who were used to hold them in place, and now the Riddermark spearmen have been brought in to ensure their fate. once and for all. In the back here, some great micro on the part of Inksfits, by the way, using his Rohirrim cavalry to just be in many different places at once and keep these champions of the White Hand busy chasing them. And if they're busy chasing them, they're not busy charging into the rear of some of these Rohirrim units while they take on the formidable Isengard phalanx. That is going to relieve a lot of pressure from Rohan. Over here, we're going to see a bit of a mistake, I think, on the part of Inksfits. He directly attacked the front of this Isengard pike line with his Riddermark Axeman with no other kind of ace in the hole to try and even out that that fight, and thus Riddermark Axemen were very soundly defeated. And we got over here some Eastmark Spearmen have been brought forward to try and shore up Rohan's position here against the Isengard right wing. This is a tough fight, very tough fight. And we have over here A-Raid of Aldburg being used to charge down some Morris Naga skirmishers. Looks like 3 of them were on the battlefield today. They're also disrupting the Rohirrim skirmishing line. Riddermark skirmishers have come back from routing from earlier, where they got hacked to bits by the champions of the White Hand. They're going to come back for round 2, and it's going to be over before it starts. Riddermark skirmishers going to run away nearly immediately. Some Riddermark cavalry coming back. They're going to want to be careful, though. The champions of the White Hand catch them. They will cut them to ribbons. Looks like the champions of the White Hand are going to get their wish today. And that Riddermark cavalry is going to get caught up in a fight that they desperately do not want to be in. Nice rear charge here into some... Oh, it looked like it was an attempted rear charge, but I think these Riddermark cavalry are going to get caught out here. And that's going to be all she wrote for them. Really taking some serious damage. Meanwhile, over on the other end, it looks like Khan has managed to pressure some of the skirmish line here from Marauders, but they got way too close with very, very little, in fact, no support for these Nomadic Raiders. And so these out-of-ammunition Northerner Warriors are going to be brought to bear against the Nomadic Raiders, and that's going to be a no-brainer. The Northerner Warriors are going to cut their way through the Nomadic Raiders with a furious vengeance. And the skirmishing fight has not gone well for Khan. I don't think that they've done the damage that they really wanted to do. I can see them trying to focus down some of the Marauders' sentries, which is not going to go well for them with the 12 armor that those units have. Let's see. Yeah, the skirmishing fight has gone reasonably even. Well, sort of even. I've definitely run down some of the ammunition from the Elven units and done a lot of damage to one of the Nori Tyrno. But in return, they've lost so many of their Nomadic Raiders, and it looks like more of them are just being brought forward to die for reasons that I really couldn't explain to you. What do we got over here? Eldarin with Standard Bearers, no idea what happened to the rest of them. They're going to charge into the Variag Horde. The Elves are good, but they're not that good, and the Variag Horde are actually quite adept in close quarters, being Variags. So they're going to be able to actually beat these Eldarin with Standard Bearers back quite soundly. And elsewhere, it's just more skirmishing fight as Crimson Behelit tries to whittle down the Elven numbers through attrition. Let's pop back on over to the Rohan side of things. It's a desperate struggle for survival. The Rohirrim infantry are... They're taking it. They're taking it on the chin, but... Oh, I don't know. Things are desperate. Oh, the mid-range skirmishers now being brought to bear, the throwing axes. And against some heavily armored units with decent shield values like the Uruk-hai, it will be a tough fight for them. But the sustained fire is going to bear some fruit. And you can see, even without the armor piercing, they're still very, very deadly. Oh, look at that. 2 units focusing them down at once. Extremely painful for the Uruk-hai. That is tipping the balance in favor of the Eastmark Spearmen. Over here, it's been back and forth. The Uruk-hai units... They specialize in this kind of line fighting. But we've got some Eastmark Spearmen supporting the main Rohirrim push. And since there was only Snaga on the wings, now the Rohirrim are going to be victorious and they're going to be able to further encircle the Isengard center. And actually some of them are going to be brought to bear against the skirmishing units. So Isengard has not had a great time of it so far. Sons of Auril fighting face-to-face with the champions of the White Hand. Far more of them. A full-strength unit against 13 champions of the White Hand. Looks like Rohan wins that cavalry fight too. Let's see what we got here. These Westmark Spearmen are just... They don't know what to do with themselves. Now, Vision does still have a lot of Uruk-hai infantry here who are busy pressing the Rohirrim hard. Now there's just Helmingas and other such units to try and hold back Uruk-hai pikes, and that's not going to be fun for the Rohirrim. You could already see a little bit of routing there. Riddermark Axemen on the verge of collapse. And if they run, that might just bring their fellows down with them. Yeah, the Rohirrim are being pressed very hard. Shields of Eowyn falling back so they can get the most out of their ammunition. That's the only way that they're going to shut down this Isengard push. Oh, there goes the Isengard general. That certainly could have come at a better time for Isengard as the fire arrows begin to push in. Or fly in, I should say. Now a lot of Uruk-hai units attacked in at a disadvantage because of the fearsome Rohirrim cavalry. Supporting units are going to start to fall away. There goes the Isengard ballista. It's on its way out. A lot of these archers are fleeing, and Nat is going to free up more and more resources for the Rohirrim to bring to bear against the Uruk-hai, and Isengard is losing this infantry fight. It's a tough one. Let's pop back on over to the other side. Doomsman of Varda charging into the Nomadic Axemen. There's nothing nearby to try and support them. Some missile units not going to be too useful against the heavily armored and heavily shielded Doomsmen of Varda. These Axemen, however, are doing excellent against these very reduced Elven units. In the center, though, I suspect it's a different story. The Imladris units are very well equipped for this kind of fight, and the Nurad footmen have lower damage. They may be armor piercing, and in theory it is a good idea to use armor piercing against Imladris Guardians, but they don't have the damage needed to get by the shield value or by the melee defense value. The Nurad footmen are much better suited to fighting lower skilled units like the Orcs or like other men, not against the elite core units of Imladris, so they're going to struggle in this fight. Especially against the pikes here. And despite this flanking... Ooh, a nice rear charge there by the Nomadic Axemen. Decent amount of damage on those Imladris sentries. And over here, the archers of Rivendell being hacked to bits by the Nomadic Axemen. So Khan seems to be doing very well on their wings, and if they can come in from the rear and just sandwich these units before their front line of Nurads begins to collapse, then Khan could potentially win this infantry fight with this very unorthodox army, which is just damn cool. Hammer and Anvil attack here by the Eldarin Way Lancers. And a beautiful Hammer and Anvil here into the Nurad footmen by the Doomsmen of Varda. A bit slow on Crimson Bahelit's part. There's definitely some units here that could have been used to bog them down. Nomadic Scouts, obviously, you don't want to get into close quarters, but yeah, this was a little bit sloppy, I think. Most of his supporting units are way too far away. Can't really do the damage that they need to do, because they're, of course, not in position to do that. Stormguard of Khan and some very high quarter just kind of being left idle over here, whereas they could be shooting into the rear of this Elven army at the same time the nomadic units are being used to come in and rear charge them. So this is a fight that Khan is good. I think they're going to lose this one, but it's not one that I think that they necessarily had to lose, or not one that they needed to lose quite so heavily as they are right now. Stormguard of Nurad struggling against all its Elven infantry. Ooh, things are looking grim here for the Khandish. But if we pop over to the other side, yeah, the Rohirrim have done it. It is not every day that you see Rohan beat Isengard in an infantry fight. But the loss of Isengard's general and the victories of the Rohirrim on both wings, allowing them to encircle the Isengard center, that was what sent them over the edge. So excellent tactics on the part of Engsfitz. His micro was solid, his choice of matchups were solid, and yeah, the way that he used his cavalry to constantly harangue the Isengarders, to whittle down the wargs before he was ready to move in and deal them a killing blow, keeping his knights in reserve and not even needing to use them because of his skilled cavalry command, and then being able to bring them in to wipe out the champions of the White Hand once and for all. Altogether, it was a damn fine victory, and one I think he should be proud of. Advanced companies of Rohirrim now, moving towards the rear of the Imladris position. I don't know if Khan's going to be able to hold on before the Rohirrim reinforcements get there. Khan's right wing is broken, shivered like a rotten stick by a combination of Elven infantry and some nasty Hammer and Anvil charges from the Doomsmen of Varda. In the center here, Stormguard of Nurad, they're struggling, but honestly, they weren't really in the fight for a lot of this. They were kind of just present while the Nurad footmen were doing all the fighting. But now that the Immolatus units are coming up against the armor piercing of these Neurods, the Storm Guard of Neurod, I think in the center we could see things maybe start to turn around. This is a strong unit. There's a lot of them. They do so much damage. Yeah, and look at this. Now the Immolatus Guardians are starting to lose to these guys. Let's watch those casualties begin to mount. Nomadic Scouts being brought over here to support some of the Nomadic Axemen. I think what they're going to go... Oh, I see what they're going after. Going after the rear of the Doomsmen of Varda. Now these throwing axes from the front are going to be not an ideal unit to use when fighting the Doomsmen of Varda. I understand the impetus for it. They were looking the other way. But yeah, they definitely didn't need to stick around for quite as long as they were. And once these guys turned around, there was no reason to really begin to keep pressuring them. Looks like the Storm Guard, who are defending the General, have failed in their one and only duty. And now the General has fallen for Khan, and that could be the end. Guardians here have taken a fair amount of damage, as have the Swords of Rivendell. Like I said, the Storm Guard of Neurod ain't no joke, and now they're actually winning this fight. But with wave after wave of reinforcements coming to surround them here in the center, the Storm Guard are not going to be able to hold back that tide. Looks like Doomsmen of Varda might be brought in for Hammer and Anvil here, and that is going to be the end. Storm Guard of Neurod are going to break. Doomsmen of Varda quite heavily reduced, but nonetheless still present. Rohan is over here with a nearly full unit of Knights. It's going to be tough. I think the only ace in the hole that Immolatus is going to have is, yeah, the Immolatus sentries, and there's less than half of them left. So now that Immolatus has taken care of most of the Khandish nomads, there are still some units and a presence of the nomads still in the field today that will be able to help Rohan. What was I saying? Yeah, now that they've quickly dispatched the Khandish forces, they're going to move to reform and face the Rohirrim advance in good order, which is a good call. King of Sparta was able to do that very, very quickly and adeptly, so now they're going to be in a great position if they can take the Rohirrim head on to basically win this 2v1. What we have here, Doomsmen of Varda, 8 of them charging into the Storm Guard of Khans. The Doomsmen are a far superior cavalry unit, but the Storm Guard are quite numerous. And they also have a small bonus versus cavalry as well. So it's not going to be that easy of a fight, and I think Doomsmen could end up losing that fight. Yeah, they're down to... I thought they were down to 5 earlier, but now they're down to 5 for sure. The Storm Guard of Khan are going to be freed up. And now the bombardment begins. The Khandish units that were not destroyed have circled back. Nomadic Scouts are now back from routing. Got some Nomadic Raiders here, some Variag Horde. Ooh, what are they doing? Ooh, some nasty enfilading fire here. Deal a fair amount of damage to those Swords of Rivendell. As well as the Immolatus Guardians. Every dead elf here is a loss dearly felt. Yeah, it's starting to take its toll. This constant bombardment. And the elves don't really have any skirmishing units left that they can use to try and deal with this. Oh, what do you know? They do actually have some Elderling archers. They're going to open fire on the Nomadic Scouts. Ooh, that's going to be ugly for them. Yeah, that accurate and deadly Elven Bowfire is going to claim a lot of these Nomadic Scouts' lives. They have no shield and very, very little armor. So Gangsfitz has actually run from his position over to here to face the Immolatus elves, who have barely broken a sweat. So Gangsfitz's army is going to be a little bit more tired and certainly heavily reduced from their fight with Isengard. What we have here is something very bold. First Marshal's bodyguard, seeing that these units are without defense, going to hit those Sword Quendi hard and nearly flatten the remaining units. We'll get pulled into a fight with the Immolatus Guardians. Ooh, the Variag Horde going for a charge here, along with some of the Nomadic Scouts against the Elder Enemy Archers. Managed to do a fair amount of damage to them, but both of those units are going to end up routing off with no general and a little bit of fatigue in addition to... Yeah, those Khandish units are not going to be able to hold on for too long. And now kind of chaos has erupted here with the Elven lineup. And Rohan is going to be able to take advantage of that. Let's see what we got here. Oh, not too many Elven Swords of Rivendell still left over. The Eldritch Guardian's going to try and reform. Ooh, and they are going to just scoot away. Thanks to the worthy sacrifice of those 11 Swords of Rivendell. It seems like the Elven commander is going to opt instead to form a square here with his general in the center. Try and keep the hopes of the Imladris Elves for victory up. Sons of Eorl getting a beautiful charge there into the Imladris Guardians. Guardians stand up to that better than most, but they can't help but take damage from that devastating charge. Shield Maidens of Eowyn as well being brought to bear, but on the front lines, yeah, Imladris is going to have the victory here unless the rest of the Rohirrim can quickly move in and some drastic things can be done. Unfortunately, not enough of the Imladris sentries to go around. That is going to leave the Elven backlines open to cycle charges from the First Marshal's bodyguard and, of course, the far more deadly Sons of Eorl. And some of the Elven reserves are just going to be whittled away by those cavalry units. The Imladris Elves have basically thrown up a shield wall. And they're going to try and weather this storm. I don't think that they have any hope for victory at this point, but they're going to do their best to take as many of these men with them as they can before they are sent to the halls of Mandos. Well, they're doing well. They're doing very well. You got to hand it to them. This is a lot of pressure, and I don't think they have their general with them anymore. Well, they definitely don't have their general now. There goes the enemy general. Back lines are completely compromised, but they are not giving up just yet. These 20 Guardians are on the verge of collapse. But they've been under a lot of pressure. They are surrounded on all sides. They are losing combat everywhere, and they've lost their general. A testament to Elven valor that they did not immediately break and flee. Let's see what the ultimate count is going to be. 99 to 86. Definitely a great game. Rohan in this fight. Gotta say, very impressed. I love the way the faction is shaping up. I feel like they are more useful, just generally, but they also still have retained their faction identity, which was very, very important for me and for basically everybody when making these kinds of balanced decisions and moving into a new patch. Obviously, we want things to be unique. We want them to play uniquely. So I think that's been accomplished with Rohan. I hope that you guys are excited about getting your hands on them in 0.97. I hope you guys have enjoyed the last few battles that I posted. It's just been a stream of 9.7 related content and some other stuff as well. Many people have asked about R1212 content, and I have to install the new beta build that was released fairly recently, but I am going to continue with that series, assuming that it doesn't get broken by installing the new patch that they've released. And I mean, I guess I could always not install the patch, but the point is to show off the mod and to highlight the progress that the developers have been making. And I know that that's important for them and for a lot of people out there as well. So I am gonna risk it. If it breaks the save, then I will just kind of play forward and we'll just continue as best as we can and just assume that nothing has happened. Just pretend, I mean. But yeah, 12.12, it's definitely coming back. I'm excited about the mod. It is like the Medieval 3 that we may never get. So you're damn right that I'm excited, and we're going to play a lot of it. I also have some multiplayer stuff coming up as well for 12.12, so keep your eyes open. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh, right, and before people throttle me in the comment section, there you go. There's the casualties. You can see who did what for Rohan. See you guys next time.